Guest today, Mr. Carlos, coming in from San Diego. Carlos, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Jacob.
Absolutely. I was very happy to get a time window with you, so we're going to get into your intro. So, I've known Carlos ever since about 2014, 2013, and I knew him in the chemical engineering program. He started out as in chemical engineering, but eventually went to a double major. He was associated with the officer board and did AIChE industry mentorship as the external VP.
hmm
He graduated with two different majors, both Mat Sci and chemical engineering. And then he got into industry for about a year and a half. And
hmm
then he decided to go back to university at
Yeah.
San Diego and decided to pursue a PhD.
Yeah.
And he decided to turn his life into something even more than what he thought possible.
Yeah.
So, Carlos,
Definitely.
tell me about your background. How did mentorship land on your radar and all that?
Oh, boy. So for me, I never really looked for mentorship. It sort of just kind of happened to me. It was more of like I stumbled upon it. It was more of more of an involuntary thing, is like for lack of a better word. Um, so at the very beginning, when I first started off over at UC Davis, what the first mentorship program that I had started there was with AIChE. And the only reason why I even got involved with AIChE was because of Brian and Daniel, which I'm pretty sure you still remember them, right?
Oh, yeah, they were super mentors
Right.
themselves. Yes.
Exactly. Exactly. And so at the beginning, I was still kind of new to the whole program because I was planning on switching into chemical engineering. I first started off actually doing civil, but with my with the way that things changed and what I was interested in, I ended up going to chemical engineering. But I was at a bit of a disadvantage because I didn't get the proper help for it at the beginning. I didn't really know which classes to take at the right times and such like that. And for the most part, I relied on people like you, people like Daniel, and people like Brian to help me out through the major to figure out what's the best course of action. Eventually, I switched into it, and then got more heavily involved with the chemical engineering club, AIChE, and continuously just found more positions for myself to, help out other people inside there. So again, it wasn't really much of a thing that I looked out for. It was more of something that was always present around me in a way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that was a common theme. A lot of people said it wasn't exactly like, "Oh, I wanted to get into the mentorship family right away." It's like, no, it was just there. It was like,
Right, right.
"Oh, well, my friends are going. I have
Yes,
roommates that are
exactly.
going.
Yeah,
I should
exactly.
go." Yeah.
Now, and that applies to many other things beyond just AICHE, though. I mean, when I eventually left the university and started looking for work, um, one of the he's already retired, but he's a very well known figure that has been in the electronics industry for a very long time. His name is Tay Isuke, I think his last name. He's a very like renowned person within Sony for a while. He was like part of their R&D department. He did a bunch of stuff with them, but he ended up becoming my mentor after college. And so, what his biggest piece of advice was to figure out what I needed to do or figure out what I wanted to do. My own life and like just continue moving on with that. So after college was done, I then ended up in like kind of a involuntary mentorship situation with this guy again. And then now after that, meeting certain people in the field of nanoengineering and continuing on from there, I'm in the same exact situation again, being around people who have come before me to help me out with what's going on now. And it's just been a continuous involuntary kind of situation. And how about you? What has it been like for you in terms of mentorship? Have you always actively sought it out, or has it been more of something that just kind of happened to you?
I would say again the latter. But there are particular circumstances that sparked it. So when I was a kid, when I was 12, there were a couple guys that were getting bullied, and
Mm,
it was minor bullying too. This isn't like, what they picture in the movies. This is just that subtle,
like
you're different,
somebody said
you're
something.
right, they're less
Right.
valuable,
Mm,
that kind of message to them. And they did
right.
it not always open, but it was just that constant devaluing of them. It was like erosion, very
I see.
slow but constant.
I
And I
see.
hated what they were doing to them because
Right.
I know what it felt like
Right.
growing up that way.
I
And
see.
I saw that a little bit in high school, and I said, you know what? We don't have to play that card. And then I started being a little more of an active mentor figure to this guy Austin, and when I was a senior in high school, teaching him
Mhm.
some of the ropes of the music industry, because we were in band together. We both played trumpet,
Mm, I see.
and the same thing was going on with him, except to a higher intensity, and it kept building. And then I kind of took a break from it because, well, I mean, when you become a freshman, you don't exactly, if you're not in the mentorship family or you don't know anything about it, you just I didn't really hear about it. But then junior year, I think it was Rose and other folk were saying, "Hey, you should do this. We're short
Right.
mentors," and I'm
Right.
like, "Oh, I could do that."
Yeah. Exactly.
So then,
Yeah. It is a bit of a weird position to be in when you first start off in something new because there isn't really much of an opportunity for you to really be a mentor in a way. I mean, there might be certain experiences that you might have before coming to the university, which you could then pass on to people who haven't had them, and in that way, there is some sort of mentor mentee kind of dynamic. But if not, it's very difficult to actually put yourself in that position.
yeah, and in my case, there was a real critical mass that said you need to do mentorship different. When I said this on multiple podcasts, but I'll bring it up again.
Mhm.
There was a gal named Alex, and she had a breakdown in the library one day. It was on my 21st birthday, and that sparked the human beings are valuable.
Yeah,
Do not bully them. Do not treat them any way less than what you would treat yourself. So the
exactly.
golden rule, and that just screamed from that situation. And I was just
Yeah,
like, I hope no one has to go through that ever again. So I
exactly.
double
Yeah,
redouble my efforts.
right. And in a way, that's kind of what I found myself doing as well. And we'll talk more about that as later on in the podcast. But when I showed up here to UCSD, there's a mentorship program that the school itself puts together, and I found myself in a position where I'm telling people, which, and it's not just like me as like a first year graduate student. It's just me like as a person, letting people know, like I understand your concerns about being here, and there's that thing called imposter syndrome that a lot of people know about. Do you know about imposter syndrome?
Actually, I don't.
Okay.
What is it?
So imposter syndrome is the feeling that you get when it's almost like you're putting on a persona that you know you're not actually being like. Um, it's almost like it's what you're showing people is that it looks like you have everything together, but you yourself know that you don't, and you feel like you're living in the body of somebody that you're not really in a way. And this happens a lot uh, in academia
Professional
and
settings too.
any university as well, because what happens is that people get into these universities, they feel like they don't belong here because around them everybody, it seems like you know they're killing it. They're doing well in these classes, they're handling school well, all that kind of stuff. And when I first heard that, I thought to myself, like, I have felt that way. And then eventually I said to myself, I understand that I do feel this way and that I might not be at the same level as other people are, such as like PhD students or the professors, but if I got into this place, I definitely have something to show for it. It's not just Like I got in here just because it was lucky. It's all the hard work that I put in, all the promise that you have specifically as a person, your unique individual self is worth something, right? And I tell people that all the time. I had somebody, a freshman, first year undergraduate student, coming from like a town over here in Southern California, first generation student, all that kind of stuff, and he feels like, man, I don't know if I could do this, but I told him, like, look, you're supposed to be here. You're you're in this place. You're exactly where you need to be, and you'll excel. Don't worry. Just work at it. And it's not going to come just naturally, of course, but work at it is the thing.
Of course, I mean, don't think that any of these guys are just walking in here and just killing it right away. It's like we all have
Exactly.
incremental progress, but
Exactly.
that imposter syndrome is way common. I mean, I didn't know there was a name for it, but
Yeah.
the minute you
Exactly.
started describing it, I was like,
I know.
what?
It's really weird.
So, with that being said, it's like there's so many people that are like trying to put up this persona of complete competence, and
Exactly.
mentorship actually isn't about that. It's about breaking that up and saying, how do you really feel?
Yeah. Exactly. And that's in a way that's kind of why I wanted to become a mentor myself, because breaking through that stigma myself, I wanted to go to other people and realize that yes, what you're feeling is valid, but it's all in your head. Like you need to push through it. You have work to do, you know? Like, and I'm not saying that like, that it's easy to do so. It is a very difficult thing for you to like really, what it comes down to is just believing in yourself and actually doing what you need to do. But everybody that got into the university got in because they thought you were capable of something. Now it's time to show it, you know?
It is indeed time to show it. And
Yeah,
if you don't, you're going to be regretting it later. And we've
exactly.
seen how many seniors did you see who are like, I wish I did blank. I wish
Right.
I would have
Yeah.
used my lower division years differently.
Yeah. I mean, even me personally, because it took time for me to really figure out what I wanted to do. But it was so much of, I don't really know if this is what I want to be doing, and like and I just see everybody else kind of just going along with it, that I said, I'm gonna do the same. Um, there were certain things that I decided for myself, such as the double major and going back to school for a higher degree, that my own unique self decided to do so for me, and now I'm happier for doing such. You know.
I bet you are, because
Yeah.
man, I remember when you got into the mentorship family, like back in 24. You're like, dude, could I do it? And it's like, yes, yes, you could. Come on in.
Yeah.
Like we get to do stuff here. And he's like, oh, we finally get to do stuff. Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Why, you
No, but
think it's
like,
just gonna be a lunch special?
yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah. No, but the thing with starting off as a mentor, like I didn't have that much success with it back in UC Davis, because again, I wasn't completely confident with what I wanted to do. It took some time for me to actually get there, and even in other situations, such as being over at the Energy Efficiency Center that UC Davis has. While I was there, there were certain. It wasn't like a mentorship program, but we had program leads, which then helped us figure out more about the industry, more about what we wanted to do and pursue, and really if we wanted to be here or not. You know. So I eventually got into the position where I was now the program lead, along with another one of uh, my colleagues. We went through the program and we tried to mentor a lot of these people, and some stuff we succeeded and some stuff we didn't. But for the most part, we let everybody in that program know that there is something there that you can get out of this. So, just it was somewhat successful and it wasn't. But eventually later on it did get way better for me to become a mentor. Like now it's easy in a way.
So you're getting at that. Really, UC Davis was like the starting of what you really want to do in mentorship. That was
Exactly.
it was really the practice of getting yourself together just as much as it was um, just being at UC Davis and working at the Energy Efficiency Center and um,
Yes.
getting through all these things. I wanted to ask you about the AIChE industry mentorship program, if that's okay, because that
Right.
that was cool. On we haven't done that before. Like we
Yes,
haven't really
exactly.
done that before. It,
Now, yeah, that was a very, very interesting thing to start because it was the first time, or maybe like, nah, like I'll say it's the second time in my life where I was sort of in charge of putting together something completely brand new. And for the most part, like, let's say you start a club, right? Or you join a club that's already been established, right? So you're in a club that's already been established. There's the set positions, there's the set roles and responsibilities for each member of that club, all that kind of stuff, right? Everything has already been set up in stone. Now, it's just continuously passing off that role and responsibility to the next person that's going to come in. Now, for starting off something completely new, you're in uncharted waters almost, you know?
you're exploring.
It, it's very difficult to actually start something like that. And so with the industry mentorship program, um, it was a bit of both. Now, for me, fortunately, and I still use him as a mentor even today. Um, but Ryan Taylor, he was the industry representative, or I think that's what it was, the industry representative for AIChE the year before me. And so using him as kind of like my model of how to be, I I I got closer to him. I ended up taking some of the stuff from him to kind of like put into my own life and like make myself better. And eventually, I was put on the team with him to start this program because he had continuously kept talking about it so much about I want to do this, I want to do this, and then finally, after the full year had gone by, the program still wasn't in place, and that's when I came in and said like, I understand that you put together a bunch of stuff and you want to do this program, but we never really got around to implementing it, and he expressed it as like that's exactly the problem. That's what I'm stuck on. I don't really know what to do. And so it was Nadia, Ryan, and I sat down together and we talked about how should we go about doing this. And it had its success. It had its moments where it didn't work out so well, um, because it was really really difficult. You have people from industry who are taking time out of their life, really, exactly, to do these things, and it's very difficult. If for anybody that's been in industry, you know you guys can say that it's extremely difficult to really do anything else beyond just work because you come home so tired. You don't really have time to focus on other things beyond what's going on in the office, all that kind of stuff. And I mean, not to say that like you guys don't have lives outside of work or anything. It's just that, you know, when you come home, you don't want to do anything else,
Yeah.
you
All the
know?
contrary. It's just our lives are full. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a big problem that we had to
Exactly.
overcome in this mentorship.
Exactly.
And
So for me, it was, I, we had some success in the program, but the main thing that made it so difficult was just the constant communication between the representatives and the teams that we put together to talk with our the it was like the upperclassmen. That's what they were,
yes.
because we didn't focus on allowing the program to be available to underclassmen because like they were just barely starting off their classes. They didn't really know too much about what they wanted to get into yet until later on, for the most part. And again, because the upperclassmen are closer to graduating, we gave them higher priority over the underclassmen, and we didn't want to create these huge groups of people that really wanted to be a part of this program. And so, just to like explain to you the dynamic of how the whole thing was put together, um, I really didn't know how to start this whole thing. So what I did was like I need to talk to people. I said, um, there are people in certain industries that please give me their contact information so that I can talk with them and hopefully we can set something up with them. And I'll ask them to see if they want to be part of this program. We had a decent amount of people from a variety of industries to come and actually be a part of the program. And part of it was also because I had to go out to these career fairs and talk to these industries and companies and let them know like, oh yeah, no, hi, I'm looking for a job, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, sure, cool. But I'm also doing this program at the same time. Would you be interested in helping this out? And so um, that was kind of the dynamic of getting industry uh, industry mentors. And then finally, as that continued on, I didn't really know how they were going to interact with the students. So there was a time where it was just like, okay, well, it's just going to be emails at the moment. I don't really know what else beyond that we can do. Maybe they can set up a tour to have this group come over to the factories that they're working at, or to like all the plants that they're working at, whatever it might be. Um, but for the most part, I kind of just left it towards the industry mentors to decide what they want to do with the students, to set that up with the students themselves. It's similar to how it is with the AIChE mentorship program between upper and underclassmen. You know,
Decentralized command. It
exactly,
works.
exactly. But for the most part, I mean, everything was set up for by the upperclassmen to help out the underclassmen, and everything was on them. You know, there was no set anything by AIChE to do anything for the mentors to help out the mentees. There were some activities and some events where we did meet up together collectively as a club, and also for just specifically that mentorship program. But for the most part, if we wanted to be a mentor, it was kind of on us to do something with the underclassmen. You know.
Yes, and I'd say with on my side of the industry mentorship program, it was I was like, oh, this is cool because
Right.
I get to be on the other side and kind of reach in. Where
Mm-hmm.
there's so many times in the academic world where people are trying to reach out and they just can't get anything, and it's
Yeah.
really frustrating. So this is kind of an outcry to like maybe we could fix that. Um,
Right.
but it's hard to do that with places that there's so many companies that, oh, we need people this year, and then like for 5 years they don't need anything.
Right.
But fortunately with AFC, we're needing people every year, so
That's
reaching
good.
out is actually a really good idea because you can
Right.
figure out if we can get some of the talent that we actually could use that would fit the persona of the plant, because you don't want to get somebody in there that's like, oh, I'm not so fond of chemicals. It's like, okay, then don't join a chemicals company, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, okay, we should filter these folk out first, and then
Hmm.
okay, well, I'm not so into working with an operations team. Okay, fair enough. A lot of
Yeah.
people aren't, but are you willing to put that aside for a higher goal? No. Okay,
Right.
filter those people out.
Yes. Exactly. Yes.
So
It's
it was really handy, I thought.
yes.
But it's a two-way street, and there were some issues,
Hmm.
just trying to figure out what objectives people wanted. And I think a lot of people didn't know what they wanted, which is why they had like this whole group that showed up like, we don't know what we want.
Exactly. And that's a huge problem, not just within, like industries, but just in life in general. Like a lot of people go about going to college not really understanding what the hell they even want to do, you know? And so most of the time people go just because it's like the next step in life, right? But it
Yeah,
isn't. There are multiple steps you could have taken to go anywhere you want. You don't necessarily need to go to college for a job. And for the most part, a lot of people in high school still kind of don't really like fully realize that, or like
they've
not
been
so much for a
told.
job. Sorry, let me phrase that better.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not so much for a job. I meant for like a career. You can definitely find something anywhere and make that a career. You know, even like talking like this on podcasts and making professional podcasts, you can do that.
That's Joe
People
Rogan.
have the ability to do whatever the hell they want to do, but it's just figuring out exactly what it is, and then not so much like figuring out how to do so, but once you have a clear goal in mind and you see it like at the edge of the horizon, you can start walking there, rather than aimlessly kind of just going back and forth trying to figure out like, okay, not this direction, not that direction, and you're wasting time you know
People waste a lot of time, and they don't even know it. And a lot of kids in high school, it's just they're so, I need to go to school. It's the only
Exactly.
way to success. And it's like, that's not
Right.
true.
It isn't.
That's
Yeah.
absolutely not true.
Right. Right.
You could go into a lot of areas that have nothing to do with school. Like you could go in the military, that
Yeah.
and they
That's
actually
that's
have better training than a
yeah.
lot of different companies. Like
Exactly. There's
they,
a lot of stuff that's very valuable from working in the military first and then going to school afterwards if you decide you want to do so. But the military does train you in very many things that are very applicable to the rest of the outside world.
yeah,
And then on top of that, like you've gotten government clearances to do so many things because you're part of the military. That also opens up extra doors that most people don't like most of the general public don't have access to.
And they won't. I mean, because I mean,
Yeah.
if you can't get in through the clearance of like you didn't do a lower level job before you got all of these cleared hot scenarios, how would you ever get it? It's a lot
Yeah,
harder. Like
exactly.
especially if you're trying to get into like let's say if you're trying to go one of the national labs around the country, good luck. You need to have some serious
Yeah,
certifications or
yeah,
someone that knows to get in,
exactly.
as
Exactly.
opposed to being able to just hop in and go, okay, I'm going to go in through the, maybe I'll start out as a private. Okay, maybe you can do it that way. Or maybe you'll get selected to be in the special forces group.
Yeah,
There's some serious opportunity there.
right. Right. Yeah.
And not just the military. I mean, you could, HVAC, you can go into the trades,
Yeah.
you can go in.
It's everywhere. Like people talk about, there not maybe not being enough jobs, or like something that they don't, or like not hiring in the field that they need or whatever. Um, but there's a definite like demand for these jobs to be filled. It might not be the exact specific one that you're looking for, but it's a start in the industry or the field that you're wanting to start off in, you know?
I would say it's there. I can't find anything, but there's a bracket there. The bracket is of what I want to do,
Right,
whatever that is, which is kind of
right,
vague anyway.
right,
So you might as well just can that phrase and say, well, maybe I can find something that's 60% of what I wanted to do,
right.
and then
And then,
call it, and then see if
right,
I can work with it.
right. Now, I will give like a bit of like a word of caution about that route though, because there are people that won't help you grow, you know? There are
Yes,
definitely companies or definitely people that are out there that are saying like, no, 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 you stay here, that's it, you know? And eventually the positions open up in the company and you say like, perfect, an opportunity for me to advance, and they don't allow you to. At that point, you say to yourself, I can't grow here. I need to go somewhere else, and that's it. And if they say, "Oh, like I'm so sorry," like why didn't you tell us? Right? Like, I did tell you. I've been asking for this. Please, you guys have not been helping me, or they just let them go. Either way, they need to move on to something better. That's it.
as opposed to just okay, I'm going to slave it away here and hope for the
Yeah,
best.
exactly.
And
Now, like, don't get me wrong. Like, if you end up finding a place where you're kind of like, yeah, maybe, and you end up loving it, perfect. You stay there. Learn as much as you can, and then eventually you're gonna have a specific skill set to you that you can then transfer to somewhere else that also needs it. And you can then grow there, or you can continue staying at the company that you're working for and just work up from there too. There's many different options to do what you're trying to do. You just need to figure out what it is.
with that, be able to move forward and have some kind of way to pay for your house that you want to have, or
Okay, yeah,
just have
exactly.
a life. I mean, because I kept telling this to a lot of the mentorship group. I was like, why did you come to university? And
Right.
some of them were like, I wanted some sort of financial security and
Yeah.
maybe a life and then maybe some meaning. Like they're kind of like questioning it because like I'm
It's almost
directly asking them.
right. It's to For the most part, it's like people come to the university to try to find meaning or purpose in their life rather than trying to find how the university can then support their own purpose that they figured it out for themselves. And it's a very big dilemma that you have nowadays, because you're getting a bunch of people with bachelor's degrees that don't really do anything with them, and is devaluing it slowly and slowly. And the value for trade jobs are continuously increasing because the supply for them is lowering over time. So I'm not saying that like that the degrees are worthless. I mean, in anything you can have a degree in anything that you want, and you can make something with it. But the thing is that when you go for something and you don't really believe in what you want to do, and you're just kind of saying like, I just want a job, like I don't care what it is, then like good luck, because there are people out there who did exactly what you did, but have the passion for what it is that you don't have or don't want to do, you know? So they're gonna like, and people notice this. People do realize that like, okay, this guy's serious, or like this girl wants in, like they're gonna figure out like, okay, the difference between this person and that person is that this person really wants to be here. And beyond that, there's really nothing else that the other person that just got a degree and like said like, hey, here's my paper, like, congrats, but like everybody else has that paper, like, look, I have it too, and so do I. Like, but you need something else to distinguish yourself between people, you know? That's something that like people don't get. Like there's a uniqueness to each one of us that we need to play on. And if you can't do that, good luck.
You know, and that's what I tried to get at with our mentorship group when I was an undergrad as well. Is it's the piece of paper is one thing, but
Yes.
diversify. Also,
Yes.
that doesn't mean anything if your character is awful. That doesn't
Exactly.
mean anything if cool, because then
Yes.
they can't
Exactly.
trust you. Eh,
Yeah. Like there's
Yeah,
it's a lot of people don't realize that as like a huge aspect, especially when it comes to industries that are very team based, you know? Things that rely on a lot of communication, things that rely on how reliable a person is, stuff like that, you know? I mean, congratulations, you know thermodynamics, you know fluid mechanics, all that kind of stuff. We all do to an extent. You might know better than I do. Your grade might be better in that class than mine was, but at the end of the day, we're here doing this job specifically. Now, what matters is how we communicate and how everything works together as a whole. And each one has a specific part to the process. And if you can't do yours, everything else falls apart too. And that's an issue.
yeah. And with any piece of knowledge, and this goes and anywhere you go. If yeah, I've got my thermodynamics down. It's like great, we're doing inventory right now. You know, okay,
Yes.
well, that
Yeah.
means we need to put that aside and just, okay, what do we not have? What needs
Exactly.
to get
Exactly.
ordered? What needs to be planned? Who is accountable for us being behind? And
Yeah.
how can we help them now that they're kind of in a jam? And maybe
Exactly.
we can prevent this later. So maybe we need a corrective action and a
Uh-huh.
preventative action to
Uh-huh.
fix this.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, what did you do with your mentees just in the last several years, kind of getting them ready for diversifying who they are? They're not just a piece of paper. They also are a human being that has all of the intrinsic value that I would say the Bible talks about. What did
Right.
you do?
So just making sure that I have the question right. So how was the interaction with me and my mentees that helped them understand like these values that we're talking about right now?
Yeah, yeah, that'd be a good start. Go ahead.
So what happened was like I said previously, like I wasn't really in the right mindset or like in the right place to become a mentor. I didn't excel at it. I helped out my mentees, of course, to a certain extent. Whether it was like take these classes at this time, take it with this professor. If you want to talk to these industries, make sure you talk to them, like or like figure out what you're looking for, all that kind of stuff. But in terms of like really figuring out what you want to do, didn't really happen until maybe like I would say maximum a year ago.
Really, that soon?
Right,
Huh?
exactly. And I'll explain why. Because like um back when I had finished school, I had a job sort of, getting ready for me when I was finishing, right? And I had been talking with this company and they said like, yeah, we'd be, really excited to like, meet up with you and hopefully get you involved with the company at some point and, get you started here. Um, and this was about like half a year before I graduated, and I just continuously kept talking with them. But out of nowhere, the communication stopped, and so I didn't really think too much about it. I was like, okay, they're busy, that's fine. But later on, as I got closer to graduation, I said like, hey, so just bringing up the conversation again. How's it going? What's going on? And things still weren't really. We There wasn't really much communication there, and I said something's weird. So my fault for putting all my eggs into that basket that fell through, because when I got there, back home to San Diego, which was where the job was going to be, um, I said like, okay, so I mean, I've graduated and I'm ready to start, and what's going on. And so the next thing that they sent me was, let's meet up. And so I met up with them at their office, at their old office, because they were going to move into a newer one because they were doing so well. And that's kind of why I was like, all right, this should be kind of like an easygoing thing because they're already doing very well. They're gonna have a bunch of work. They're gonna need the help, and I'm gonna be the first chemical engineer for their team to help out with the stuff that they're doing. the team, or not the team, the company itself dealt with product development. So somebody would come to them and say like, I want to create a product, or I want to invent something, and so the team of engineers would then think about how to make that a reality. So that's what the company specializes in. And we get a lot of people that do research. We get a lot of people that were just want to make new products for like whatever it is that they want done for their specific field or industry. But what happened with the company is that one of their main projects fell through, and they had to let go like 2/3 of their company. Exactly. It like I say 2/3, but like it wasn't a huge company at the same time. Like it's like maybe a team of like 20, 30 people, right?
But nonetheless, if it's 30
Exactly.
people and it's
Exactly.
2/3, I
Exactly.
mean, only 10 left.
Right. So now we went from starting in a company that is growing and doing very well, that's moving into a building that's like 4 times the size of its original office, down to going back to the original office where everything's completely cluttered because they have to just like get everything out of the old office space, and there's a lot of people that aren't there anymore. So I was like, what's going on? You know? And so they started talking to me about what I just told you. And then at the end of the whole conversation, I said, well, I'm sorry to hear all that, but now what's going to happen to me? And they said, we don't have work for you. I'm sorry, we can't do anything. And that's it. Yeah. So now I'm back home. I didn't have anything I could do beyond working with my dad. And so I worked with him for a little while. I hated it. But it gave me great opportunities to really just kind of work on myself and figure out like, okay, like I understand that there are a lot of things that I need to work with myself before I then go on to another job and work there, because like there were a lot of things that I was really bad at with like time management and making sure that I do things correctly and all that kind of stuff. Like it's just things that like now looking back at it, I would not have hired me. But the only reason why I got that position working with my dad's company, it's a very small business. It's like 6 people. Um, is because he knows me, and that's it, right? And he's like, yeah, sure, you can work here, it's fine. And don't get me wrong, like yes, I felt like I wanted to be out of there as soon as possible, but at the same time, due to the fact that I didn't really have experience in other things that would later be used in different fields and industries, like I didn't have much of a starting point to go to anything. And so that was the issue. um but yeah, going back to the whole thing with uh, what I tell my mentees about, like, you know, be sure of what you want, what you want to do, and this whole thing of like, make sure that like you have a set goal in mind and work towards it, is all from being in that situation, of being in that whole situation of I don't like where I am, you know. And so after some time of thinking about it and working with that mentor that I told you about after I had graduated, I wrote down specifically what I wanted to do, what industries I wanted to be a part of. And so this is a little bit of like kind of like part intro, part like, what I tell people most of the time now, because really like my life experiences and what I went through helps them understand like, okay, this guy knows exactly where he's at in his life and how he's going about doing what he needs to do, you know? And so what happened after I wrote down the specific industries I wanted to be a part of, nano engineering was one of them. And obviously the nano engineering one because I'm part of the university and I'm doing research for it and all that kind of stuff, right? Yes, I get it. But what happened was the other two industries I wanted to be a part of were solar cell technology and battery cell and fuel cell technology. I had the opportunity to work in a battery research place for a little while, which you can see on the LinkedIn profile where there's like a section of Wildcat Discovery Technologies. And I worked with them doing battery research. I wasn't really the one performing like the heavy hitting research and figuring out different formulations and this and that because they have actual scientists for it. I was just working in the lab helping them out. But eventually what happened was I talked to somebody there and I asked them like, how do I get to the position of being a scientist here? Because I really want to be doing more research and involved in like figuring out stuff. And you can kind of see where this is tying into like what I wanted to do later on in my life, because I wanted to do that kind of like, use my head to figure out new things, right? And she said to me, no, you would never be able to do so, just flat out like that. And I was like, why, right? And I'm like, it's just like the most that you would ever get here is being a research associate. And one of the guys there had been with the company for like 3-4 years and like had just recently got it or whatever, right? And I'm like, he's been here for that long, and yet, you know, he can't even be a scientist. They won't let him. Like that's ridiculous to me. And they said that you need a PhD in battery technologies or battery science, right, to really be a researcher. And I'm like, all right, fine. And so I decided, like, well, since I can't really grow here, like I performed my job. Don't get me wrong. I did the best that I could. And after the contract was up, they said like, okay, well, the contract is up. We're just gonna let you go. That was it. And I said, all right, cool. But after that whole thing had happened, I kind of just like, what do I want to do? Again, going back to that whole thing of like just kind of laying in my bed, having existential crises, all that kind of stuff, trying to figure out what the hell. And eventually it came down to nanoengineering again. So the reason why I got so heavily involved with nanoengineering is because that was the main industry where I had no starting point. I had absolutely nothing to go off on, you know? Um, and so what I did was I just started emailing people around the world, like the companies that produce graphene. Do you know what graphene is?
I mean, you're talking about the really thin layers of carbon, right? Like
Yes, exactly.
we're talking like atom layer. Like
Yes, exactly. And I mean, um, when I first learned about it, it was almost like the gold miners over in like Sacramento who saw gold for the first time and went, like, no, like this is it right here. And it was me. That's me right now, and it still is. But
this is
what
Carlos in
happened was,
2019.
yeah. But it, like, I finally found something that I said like, no, this is it, you know. And so my next plan of action was just to talk to people. Like, what do you do? Like, how did you get into this? Again, going back to mentorship, I I reached out to people, right? Which in most cases isn't how things work, because most people don't go to somebody else to ask for help. People usually like see that somebody's struggling and they go in and say like, do you need help, right? So
It's the way it should
it's a
work.
good, huh?
It's the way it should work. I mean, because
Yeah, exactly.
but
So like the the whole thing that worked there was that like I emailed everybody, like people from like England, people from Japan, China, uh, I think there's some places in India as well, Canada, Mexico, US, all that stuff, right? Everywhere around the world, of people that produce graphene. And I asked them like, what can I do? What can I learn? Some people were helpful. Some people just said like, ah, no, kid, leave me alone. Like, you like find a job somewhere else, kind of thing. Some people actually really wanted to meet me. And then finally, what actually did it was a company here in San Diego, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, like had I been
cha-ching.
somewhere else, I could not, I wouldn't be able to do this kind of thing. Now, what happened was, I asked them like, I gave them the usual spiel of like, hey, so like I just recently graduated, but I'm looking to get into this field. Is there anything that you recommend that I do? Like, what can I learn? What books did you, whatever, right? Except for this one, I did it a little bit differently, because like I gave them the usual spiel, but then at the bottom I was like, "Do you guys also mind if I can meet up with you at some point? Because I see that you're in California, or not California, in San Diego, and I'm here too. Can I come check it out?" And they said, "No, but what you can do is I'm going to be giving a lecture at the university. Come check it out." And I said, "Okay." So that's kind of how this whole thing started, and now I'm here.
See, you're describing almost more of your mentee uh, in the sense of climbing where you need to go, because that's
Exactly.
the drive of a real mentee, is
Right.
that I need to get somewhere, but I don't know how, and I'm going to make sure I get there, and I'm
Right.
not going to get there on my own. So I'm going
Right.
to reach. I'm going to reach a
Exactly.
lot.
Exactly. So that's the thing with being in mentorship programs, is that like, sure, you sign up for this program, but what do you want to gain out of it? What is it specifically that you want to go for? What is it? And I tell people that all the time. What do you want? Figure that out. And if you can't figure that out, I'm sorry, but I can't help you as best as I can. I can help you with certain things like how to manage school, and if you want to go to the gym and like how to do time management stuff for that, and like sure, like I can help you with that. But until you tell me exactly what you want specifically from your life and from yourself, I can't help you as best as I can.
Especially where you're at. I mean, in undergrad, it made more sense to me on how to help people because we knew where people were going to fail at. You're going to
Exactly.
get pulled down by bad friends. You're going to
Yeah.
get pulled down by a really hard major. You are trying to figure out what you want. You're trying to figure out what, like, we have a whole bucket list of things that we're just trying to.
Exactly.
If we could just get maybe even 50% of those figured out and just help them sort through their life, maybe they can just start figuring out their own life, and then it's decentralized command again, and
Yeah.
then
Then
they'll be
it's
like,
on them.
and it's on them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that's what we tried to do because we knew we couldn't solve everything, but we're like, well, maybe we can make them effective enough where they can solve their own problems.
Right.
And then,
And that's kind of the dynamic that you set up with your mentees, right? It's just like, all right, so I'm gonna help you figure out what you want specifically to then figure out, like you yourself have figured it out. Now you can go ahead and do it.
yeah, and we also did skills training because
Mm.
there's some skills where it's like, well, don't make them beat their head against the wall.
Yeah.
Give them a hand. Like that's so
Yeah.
stupid. Like
Yeah.
here, what
Exactly.
like with
Eh,
even like Microsoft Word for crying out loud. It's
Yeah.
like, what do all the
Exactly.
controls mean? It's like, look,
Yeah.
Control A, Control X, Control R, Control Y. Like remember them.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like, but we don't have to make them beat their head against the. That is not the university method. We're supposed to.
Yeah.
Here is what we figured out. Here's what you can now do with it.
Right. It's
Go
like
for it.
if people know the shortcuts, why not share it? Because if you're having somebody else learn the exact same way that you learned, then they're gonna run into all the steps and all the pitfalls, the traps of whatever it might be
Maybe more
that
because they're
that
different.
exactly that you ran into to get to the level that you're at currently. Why don't you tell them like, oh hey, like watch out right here, you're gonna fall down. Like something like that to then help them out. Get there faster. Because what happens is that like it might be somewhat of like a pride issue too of like I worked my ass off to like be at this level. You know, you have to do the same. Like it shouldn't be that way. It really shouldn't be like you have to work just as hard as I did to succeed or to be able to succeed like I can. No, like
They'll never get
if
better if you can't give
it's
them the means to like have a better path.
exactly, and if you're training these people to be on your team, then what's the issue? You want valuable people that know what they're doing. Exactly, right? So then if you want the job to get done faster or better or whatever, you're going to need to have qualified people for that. And if you want them to learn quicker, show them the right way to do it rather than let them just kind of like, oh, I don't, nothing like that. It's
That's a bad habit to get into, by the way, because guess
exactly.
what? That's not so bad that first month where you're just doing everything for them and then just saying, I want you to do only this one task because
Right.
that's what I did. Guess what? 6 months later, you're going to have a bunch of slaves because they're just going to be like, well, I guess I'll do this. And then they're
Yeah.
like doing it mediocre. And then maybe they'll do it
Right.
subpar and they'll be
Yeah.
doing it begrudgingly.
Like exactly.
It
Like
doesn't
I
work.
mean, yeah, like let them know how to do it the right way, but also like make sure that they're thinking about it along the way. Don't just like spoon feed it to them.
It's
You
a
know,
self assessment. Like, it
exactly.
wasn't just about teaching them Microsoft Word, it was also about how it's going to connect to how they're going to do better at their job, how they're going to do better about getting to the next step in the university. And then they
Hmm.
see that path light up, and now they're going, oh, this isn't just about Microsoft Word. This is
Exactly.
about me getting so much farther than where I could have gone before.
Right.
And the light
Right.
just shines on the path that they were going to go on. And now they know what they're running at. And even if they don't know half of what they want, they're going to find out. They've got enough light
Yeah.
at the end of the tunnel to
Yeah.
figure it out.
Exactly. And like that's another thing that I tell people too. Like, I mean, figure out what you want, but also figure out what you don't want. Like figuring out what you don't want to do is also just as valuable because for a fact that you're like, okay, I don't want to be here, right? let's move on to something else. You're still pushing yourself to grow in a specific direction, whatever direction it might be at that point, really, because you still don't really know, but you're forcing yourself to be somewhere else uh, that you want to be, or at least away from where you don't want to be, which is exactly what happened over in those previous jobs that I had. You know, like I working with my dad and being there, I worked in some really horrible places, you know, like fixing pumps in like some of these really nasty places that I would not recommend anybody go to, right? But the thing is that, you know, being in that situation got me to the point where I was like, I hate this. I need to leave, right? And that's the issue sometimes with people is that like it's in a bit of like a chemical and thermodynamic kind of sense, it's a very low energy state, you know, of like, okay, I guess, you know, this is my life, you know. It's comfortable, right? It's comfortable to be in that spot, but you need some amount of energy given to yourself to say, I need to get out of here. It's not going to be as simple of like, you know, like, oh, hey, a new job opened up and you kind of just fall into it. No, like you need to go out and find
Never.
this.
Never. Yeah,
Exactly.
like maybe like the 0.01% of
Yeah.
society gets something
Yeah.
like that.
And like, and even they know that they're like, oh my God, I cannot believe how lucky I am. You
Yeah,
know, that's what I'm
ex-
talking about. But like in terms of, you know, like like understand like if you're in that situation, you're in a very low energy state and you're comfortable being in there. You might not like it, but the way that you are behaving is that you're not giving yourself enough energy to say to yourself, and it might be like, you know, just rage that fuels you, saying like, I hate this, you know, I need to get out of here. Or like the love for something that you want to do that gives you the energy to say like, I need to move on to something that would better myself or better my life or whatever the hell. For some people it like it's situational. For some people, like I have a kid along the way, you know, I need to get ready for that, and then in their mind it's like, okay, well, like, you know, like quickly, like, you know, get somewhere else that would get me into a better position to, you know, support this child and his mother,
yeah,
you know.
I'm in a vulnerable state. I need
Exactly.
to leave. But I also
Exactly.
need to leave somewhere where it's better than I am now.
Exactly.
How am I going to get
Exactly.
there?
Exactly.
And you
Exactly.
can't do that if you have that comfortable slave mentality, which we really tried to break that in the university. We were like, no, 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 no. You are not here as a slave. You're not doing this because your parents told you to. Let's get
Yes.
that completely destroyed out of your head.
Yes.
Because what
Exactly.
we need you to be is someone who's competent, capable, who can think for themselves. You wanted out. Here you are with your little bit of freedom that you decided as an 18
Right.
year old.
Now do something with it.
Now do something with it. This is
Exactly.
your chance. This,
Exactly.
and you may not get that again. Some people, like once university is gone, that momentum is radically reduced the rest of their life, and it may take them years before they can even get anywhere close to the momentum they had at like 20.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's like, you know, it could be like an age issue. You just got old and you're just like running out of steam, really. Or it's just more of like a comfort issue where you're in a place and you're just like, you know what, I'm making enough money for myself, right? But, you know, you want to get better at some point, you know, like if that's the difficult thing with comfort, you know, like it's you're stuck in a spot where it's a very low energy, and you need to put in some amount of energy into your life to really get to somewhere else where you want to be, right? Now it's like, think of it as kind of like the reaction mechanism for like a chemical process, right?
Oh, I know where you're going.
Right. There's gonna be like, let's say like there's dips in the whole thing, right?
Uh huh.
But if you just keep going a little bit further, after that next little hill that you have to get over, it's gonna be an even lower energy state, which you can then enjoy better. You know, that's the thing. I don't like using chemical analogies for everything, but that's just how my life is now. I'm sorry. I know that there's probably better ways to say it, but like that's like, you and I understand that that's how I'm saying it to you.
You're. I understand. Yes, you're trying to drive a reaction to completion,
Yes.
and this is the way that if you go just enough, you'll be able to get to a potential where you can just fall down the hill. You get new reagents. They really
Exactly.
like being those reagents. They're not
Exactly.
changing.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Chemical high
Yeah.
point. But you can't
Yeah.
do that unless you actually say,
Listen to yourself.
I hate this enough where I'm willing to be extreme.
Right.
And a lot of people aren't willing to do that. A lot of people will just say, this is good enough. And even though I hate where I'm at, I am not going to work the extra little bit to get where I want to go. And I'm like, okay,
Right.
fair enough then. Then you're staying
That's
at
on
that
you.
low point.
Yeah, that's on you at that point. I mean,
It
like,
is
I'm
on
sorry.
you.
I mean, but that's how it is. Like, people aren't gonna go to you and say like, "Hey, do you want a better job and do you want better pay and stuff?" Like, no, you have to show first off that you're qualified, and second that like, that you want it.
That
So
you want it. And,
yeah,
and they'll see the drive because they go, wait a minute, because resumes don't always have a personality. They usually don't.
exactly.
But
Yeah,
the person does. Like
yeah,
this guy
yeah.
is driven. His resume
The
may only be bland, but the person himself, I get someone with that kind of firepower, this could change the way I work with this group. This is what I've been missing.
uh-huh. There's a saying that my uncle told me. Um, it's a Spanish saying, but I'll translate it. It's
Sure.
like the presence of the saint is what causes miracles to happen. And what he meant by that is that like the way that I handled this whole situation of getting into the university and like being a part of this program now is exactly that. I showed my face. I showed them that I wanted to be part of this, and like I was willing to sacrifice certain things in my life to be here and willing to do this kind of stuff to help them out and say like I'm serious about this. I want to do this, you know? And a simple email with my resume saying like, "Hey, I'm smart. Can I be here?" is not going to do it.
Of course not. It's like it's so different when you're brave because there's some real risk of
Yeah.
rejection and there's
Yeah.
real risk of like failure. But when
Yeah.
people see that, they go, and maybe most people will still reject you, but the fact that you kept going anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's how it is for me at this point. And that's like a message to everybody else that's still looking for jobs at this point, or to figure out what it is exactly that they want to do but are kind of like, I don't know how to go about doing that kind of stuff. You need to put yourself out there, right? I understand that like the rejection from all these things that you've applied to really hurts. I understand that like if something doesn't work out in your life, it hurts, but there are reasons for it. Things that don't really make sense to us maybe, but people are in the place that they need to be because they need to be there. And like I completely believe in that. I'm exactly in the place that I need to be right now because that's exactly how my life is supposed to go, which goes back to how everything was going over at the end of college over at UC Davis. I decided I wanted to go back to San Diego because the job was going to bring me down here. The job was pulled out from underneath my feet, and then I decided like, what the hell am I going to do? Because of what I wanted to do, I started realizing the resources around me, and I started going for it. I would not have been able to do so if I had gone to another job, stayed there, left San Diego, and decided later on like, hey, I want to do this, but like, how do I show my face to people that are in this field that like I want to do this? You know?
Yeah, and now that you were able to suffer but eventually see and observe and explore, you now know what you can actually do with your life now that you've been able to live and say, you know what? I finally ran into enough walls where I can kind of find a box of where I'd like
Exactly.
to have my life in. Um,
Exactly.
that could be useful, and then I could help my friends, and then I could, not be miserable because that would be good. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, you could be happy, and it's like your family would be like, "Wow, Carlos is actually happy. We haven't seen that in like a long time. This is
Yeah.
great,"
Yeah. Exactly.
and that
Yeah.
would be great for everybody. And
Yeah. Exactly. Like, and we see that a lot. Like I always hear it from people too. It's like, I'm unhappy where I am, or like I hate going to work, or like, I just hate the job or whatever. And it's like a bit of like an unfulfilling thing for them in their life, right? Um that there's going back to the whole like mentorship topic.
please,
There's
please,
there's actually there's actually a guy that I'm watching currently, like just playing video games online, streaming, right? But for some reason, the stuff that he talks about is extremely thought provoking, right? one day he brought up a pictogram where it was like um, it's like doing what you love, doing what's needed. You can get paid for it, and there was another one that was like like you're passionate about or something like that,
Dude,
right?
that's Ikigai.
Yes, there we go. That's exactly what it was.
My friend
Ikigai.
Julie was talking about that a couple months ago. I
Yeah,
know what
yeah,
you're talking
yeah.
about.
This is like this involuntary mentorship that I was gaining from this guy, which I mean, I was just kind of here to like watch this guy play games and like, shoot people, like that was it. Right. But like it was the constant discussion that we had with him in the chat and then talking with him on Twitch that I said, you know what? This I'm actually gaining a lot from this. So I'm gonna continuously keep coming back to this specific channel and keep learning more. Yeah, sure, like the gameplay that he puts out isn't entertaining and like it's fun to watch, but I want to have like these discussions with him from time to time. And that concept of Ikigai was like completely like mind opening and like when I saw that I was like, that's it. That's exactly what I need to start telling people. That's like that is it. Because like kind of like what in that pictogram it has like it's basically like a four circle Venn diagram of what it is, right? And
Correct.
Ikigai is in the center of it, showing you that like you are like reaching your maximum fulfillment and like peace with yourself and happiness, whatever it might be. But like if you hit each of those four circles doing exactly what you love doing and getting money for it and working and the world needs it, all that kind of stuff, then you're winning at life, you know? But a lot of people don't realize that they have the potential to do that kind of stuff, you know? Now, granted, some things are going to be more difficult than others, such as like working in the entertainment business. There are so many singers, there are so many actors, and it's very difficult to be a part of that.
Right,
You
high
know,
volume, but low,
exactly,
like really low elite. Like there's
right,
not that many of
exactly,
them.
exactly. But I mean, it doesn't have to be your job. Do you understand what I mean?
It
Like,
does not have to be your primary thing. That could be your
exactly,
secondary.
exactly. Like, sure, you might hate going into work, but like, what if you go somewhere else where you decide this is fine, right? You might not feel that fulfillment, but you're now placing something else in your life that you love doing, right? Like, what if it's surfing, for example, right? You love to surf and you just absolutely love it. What if every day after work you have the ability to go surf, right? And
Speaking
your
like a
work
true
allows
San
that.
Diego person. This is,
Exactly.
yeah.
I like the reason why surfing comes to mind is because I have a friend who actually is doing that kind of stuff. She's in the same program that I'm doing research and all this kind of stuff, but she loves surfing. She would not give it up. And I see that like she's managing her time well enough to actually do everything that she wants to do. So I'm like, perfect, good job to you. For me, it's like dancing. I love going salsa dancing and I love doing that kind of stuff. Beyond research and beyond all that kind of stuff that I like doing, I also like dancing. And so I find time for it. I make sure that I have the energy for it. Like I work out and I eat well. And if I can't do those two things, I'm not going to be able to survive the rest of it.
Yeah, your
So
body will be like, oh, sorry, you're at low
exactly, yeah.
power.
Yeah.
No!
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. But the same concept applies to just about anybody that we talk to, right? Like when we talk to our mentees, it's always like really figure out what you want to do. And thankfully, like most of the time that we run into people there of the engineering field, so like it's not extremely difficult for somebody of our field to say like, hey, like go find an engineering job, and like if it's really something you want to do, then pursue it. Because we're always actively looking. People are always like constantly rotating positions. People are always constantly looking to bring more people in. It might not be the exact level that you want to be in, because like if you tell me that you want to be a CEO, well, good luck for you thinking that you're just gonna like find the position for it. You can create a business of your own that's different. But if you want to go into a place that's already well established, you do need to put in some work in that specific company
It's not
first.
fair to those people. I mean, come on. Like, let's say Paul Kipsgard, for example, in Slumberjay. That guy's
Uh-huh.
got an international company. He's a CEO. He's probably just as busy as like some people who actually run a country, let alone a
Exactly.
business. It's like you
Exactly.
can't just expect to throw, oh yeah, we're gonna risk it on this guy who doesn't know anything about upstream oil.
Exactly.
Not
Exactly.
gonna happen.
There's steps to it. Yeah. Yeah.
You can make your own upstream company, but
Yeah. Yeah.
don't think you're just gonna pop into Halliburton or these big, crazy, complicated companies and just say, "Oh yeah, I'm taking over." It's like, wow. So you're gonna take? What's the odds of that? You have all these
Yeah.
disagreeable board members who are probably waiting for the next minute they mess up to
Yeah.
get in that
Exactly.
spot.
Exactly.
Like the
So
next minute, they've been doing it for like 20 years. They're absolutely gun ho to do it, and they're willing to
yeah.
sacrifice
Now,
their whole life to do it.
not impossible though. I mean, like you can definitely do it. Not impossible. It's just extremely difficult. That's it. That's the catch there.
Yeah, you may want to do a different reaction chemistry. You know, it's like there's other ways to succeed that doesn't
Yeah.
involve climbing just this incredible corporate ladder all in one leap.
Yeah.
Steps are good. Steps are
Yeah.
good, a better
Yeah.
way. Um,
And that's another thing that I tell people too. Like, like we always tell people like find out what you want to do or like find out what makes you the happiest or like, what brings you the most like tranquility or peace within your own self. But like it doesn't necessarily have to be a job, you know? It could be anything that you find outside in your life, like say you love painting, right? But you don't want to do it as your work because like I understand that once you do something as your job, it becomes a responsibility and it changes a little bit the fact that you love doing
well, sure,
that.
because it's not about painting anymore. Now it's about, oh, I gotta do the time, I gotta do the bills, and
Exactly.
it's
The
associated with things that aren't just painting.
like the magic of creating something like that is now lost almost because like it's associated with like okay now real world things of like okay now I have to work at this and do that. But like it's again finding something that you really enjoy doing and doing that. You know, for me, what happened to me was that I wanted to end up doing research, right? And I'm always telling people now, like the new people that are coming in, like all the mentees, like that's just how things are with me. You don't necessarily have to do that, but if it's like you just like money, right? And you really, really want to get a bunch of money, go for it. There are avenues to do so. There are different ways you can do it, but like if if you wanted to like figure out a legal way, please like find out a legal way to do it. To
Disclaimer, yeah.
yeah, to make money, then do so. But like you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be like this is the job that I want to do for the rest of my life. But like if it's something that you'll tolerate doing enough, and it makes you enough money where you're happy, then perfect. You're good. You don't have to really do much more.
Yeah, and I'd say, so we told people this, but before we even really, before I noticed the advice really started taking in, what we did was we proved to them that we were worth listening to. I think a lot of us did that. So,
Okay, that's good. That's actually really good.
and you remember, like, why were people coming into the mentorship family? Because they realized they had proven themselves as people worthy of trust. And that's like, oh, you get someone you trust and they're absolutely on the right path, and you see them being kind, because
Right.
sometimes they don't mix. Sometimes you get someone who's really truthful, but he's a complete, a completely angry person. No, no,
Yeah.
no. You're getting someone who's truthful, kind. There's a respect. There's this sense of breaking down barriers that you couldn't do on your own. That just makes their soul pop out of their chest. Like, we need to get in there because this
Yeah.
is what we could
Exactly.
do.
Exactly. Like for me, that was kind of what I found in Ryan Taylor as a mentor. Do you know Ryan Taylor?
Dude, this
I'm
guy, he's the Chevron guy, right?
exactly.
And then
Yeah.
he's like helping out with the officer board, and he's helping
Yes.
out with AICHE. And
Exactly.
yeah, no, when I heard you
I
talking about the story, I didn't
I
know
first
he was the inspiration, though.
yes, he's deeply like the inspiration, but like I've learned so many things through him that like I'm now applying to my life, and I let like other people know about it too. Um, I first met him at the Energy Efficiency Center. He was like the angels coming down, and there was the light shining behind him almost. It felt like that kind of experience to me because he gave a presentation at the Energy Efficiency Center, and the way that he carried himself, the way that he was, and like just who he was as a person, really attracted me to that kind of ideal in a way.
And that's what shined
Eventually,
first.
yes, exactly. Like eventually, like I met him more. I got more involved with him. I started learning more about him and like his life experiences, what he's gone through, uh, the the opportunities he's had, what he's worked as, and all that kind of stuff. To the point where, like today, I can say that I'm I'm like him. I'm me. You know, like I am who I am, and you know I'm confident with who I am. But the ideals that I got from him, I am now put in my life, and I'm rolling with it. You know,
Yeah.
and at the same time, getting so close to him has helped me realize like he's just a person, just like everybody else. You know, so like yes, he's like this like crazy otherworldly being almost that I feel like he was for a second, and then after realizing, you know, there are some things about him like here and there where I'm like, you know what, no, like he's human too, that make it easier for me to relate to him and say like, you know what, if I mess up, it's okay, I can still keep going
You
because
can. You can.
if
And
there's somebody that's that put together like him, even with the small mistakes that he's made here and there, I could do it too.
and now that all this has come about, let's say you had people in UCSD and they wanted to join into your mentorship program. What
Mhm.
would you tell them?
About the program itself, or like now that I'm their mentor and what like ideals I would want to tell them.
So I'd want to know two things. I'd want to know about the mentorship program itself, but also why they should get in it.
Okay. So the mentorship program itself is a university-run program. It is called the Jacobs Undergraduate Mentorship Program. The Jump, it's called, right? I know, aptly named Jacobs Undergraduate Mentorship Program. The uh,
Ironic.
the way that it's set up is that we have it's like a hierarchical system of mentorship almost. We have the undergraduates, underclassmen, and then the undergraduates, upperclassmen, and then the graduate students, and then finally like faculty and PhDs and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the way that it works is that the program itself already has specific goals in mind that has been made known to the mentors of the program, saying like you are going to do this with with your mentees. This is the way that it's supposed to work. This is the stuff that we're supposed to be doing together, all that kind of stuff. Um, Professional development, uh, taking your mentees to like a field trip to go to some industry that you want to show them, like this is specifically like the stuff that you might be doing or whatever, right? Tours of labs, letting them know about graduate school, letting them know about specific certification programs that they might want to look into, all that kind of stuff, right? So for the most part, it is kind of like on our own, and we decide like how well we want to help out our mentees. But there's also certain requirements that the school is placing on us to provide as mentors to our mentees. Um, what happens then is the school also told the mentees like, okay, we understand that these people have gone through the classes that you have gone through, but they are not there to be a TA. They're not there to be a tutor. You know, that is for TAs and professors. You go to them for help. You don't ask your mentors. You know, don't put the pressure on them to ask them for help on homework. They can help if they choose to do so, but that's not what they're there for. They're
Right.
there to help you go through this whole major because it is very difficult. It's extremely difficult to get through this whole thing, especially on your own, you know? So having this kind of network where you set up where you have people who have gone through the hells of school to help you understand where like, you know, like be careful with taking too many classes, you know, make sure that you're eating right, make sure that you're getting enough sleep, you know, maybe even go to the gym. The gym is extremely helpful getting through college. It's as much as people think it's like a just like a time waster. Like no, it isn't. It's like please go, you know. Um, but that's what the mentorship program is about. Now, for me, right now it's still kind of like its infancy stage of like being a mentor and like setting up a group. We haven't really gotten our assignments yet because we just barely put together like a speed dating kind of thing going on, right?
Yeah, meet a lot of people in a very short time frame.
Exactly. And so what happened at the end of that was they write down the names of the people that they want as the mentors, and then hopefully everybody gets paired up together and put in a group, right? So that's how it goes. Later on, as time goes on, we will be placing each other into groups, and then we'll meet and stuff. Sometime in November is when we actually get our assignments, right? So already we're like halfway through the first quarter, and I'm hoping to God that my mentees are not just like in shambles by the time I get to them, you know. So um, I don't know what it is with UCSD, but like the people around here, they're very driven. They're very serious about their studies. So that I'm hoping that it still carries on to the people that I'm going to be menteeing, or that the people I'm going to be mentoring. Um, but even if it isn't, it's perfectly fine because I know how to manage this whole thing. I've been through it, you know, like just about anything in college you can let me know about, and like I'll try to give you my own experiences and hopefully give you resources to make it easier, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you did. I mean, you did a crazy amount of time undergrad. You were helping AIChE with people, so you didn't just get to see your class because a lot of people do that. They just kind of associate with their class, but you actually
Yeah,
got to see the lower division while you were in it, but also as an upperclassman, you've gotten to see some industry experience.
yeah,
That's going to be very helpful for them because some of them have never even gotten a job. They've been told their whole life, like me, it took me till 20 till I finally got something in the
yeah,
industry. They said, you need to go to school, and that's it. Just
yeah,
drive it.
exactly,
That's it. And I'm
exactly,
like, that is so not true.
yeah,
Um,
exactly,
but
exactly.
okay, I guess I'm going to go that way because all
Yeah,
the
I
adults
mean,
are saying that's the right way to go.
to give them the benefit of the doubt, things were different back then as well. You know, a lot of the jobs that you see nowadays going to bachelor's degrees do not require bachelor's degrees. You can easily train somebody straight out of high school to do some of these jobs, you know? And I see it all the time. Like the places that I went to, and like, you know, I saw some of the requirements for certain jobs that required bachelor's and experience on top of that. We're doing basic stuff, you know? And honestly, like straight out of high school, you could train people to do this kind of stuff. You don't need bachelor's degrees for some of these jobs, but that's just how things go now, you know? But again, like, you know, things have changed. You need to kind of set yourself apart a little bit. You need to really figure out what you want to do because the passion is what gets you into the door. I mean, sure, like a GPA and everything else does matter. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, you know, as another disclaimer for this video, please focus on your studies. Make sure you do well in school. But at the same time, really find your passion because people will see that and they'll help you work towards it.
Especially for even. Let's say you're like like UCSC is really competitive.
Yes.
You've got two people with 3.5 that both had two internships. They're
Yeah.
both driven, but that one guy decides to just go a little farther, just enough, and that one break from the tide, and it's like that person has personality, where this other
Right.
person is more doing it for as like a robot. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll do it
Exactly.
for you, sure, but this
Yeah.
guy is like just absolutely just he's got something that is
Right.
intrinsic that they're not seeing manifested in his competitor.
Right. Exactly. And it like even though you might have like industry experience in like a different field that's not really related to what is happening in the field that you want to do. Like say you worked with like energy, right? And then now all of a sudden you had like a complete epiphany halfway through that internship and you said like I don't like this. I want to go do food instead, right? um, there are skills that transfer over from one to the other. But the thing is that like it's like you said, they have so many applicants. How are they gonna know that you're gonna be the one that's gonna make a difference there? You know, if you show them that like you really really want to do it, then perfect. That's easy. At that point, they'll be like, all right, yeah, sure. They might not even care so much about like your what's it called? They might not even care about the specifics of like what you've done. For me, that's exactly what happened. Like I talked to the professor a year ago in September, asking him if I could like come volunteer in his lab, and I said like, I really, really want to do research, and I really, really want to like, do it in graphene, and that's exactly what he did. So he was just kind of like, okay, yeah, sure, come on out, we could talk. And he starts asking me questions of like, do you know how to do this, and do you know how to do that? Have you ever done your own research project before in your life? And like, and I'm kind of like just like shrinking in my chair, like, no, I haven't. Um, but the thing with him is that he said like, it's okay. Many people come in here not really knowing what kind of skills they need, but your willingness, your willingness to learn is what has helped you get to this point. Now that you're here, will help you learn. And that was it. Mentorship again, involuntarily, but mentorship again.
Dude, so the reason why I keep bringing it up and asking people, and I've
Uh,
probably said this already, but a lot of it's because I think it's one of the cures to getting people from an unhealthy modern day, just you got to grind it out till you make it,
yeah,
to no, you're grinding it for being able to make this world a better place, making
exactly.
people better, making yourself better. There's this sense of glory to it that you
Yeah,
wouldn't have just grinding away as a slave by yourself.
exactly.
And
Like to me, it's like so as an average student over my undergraduate degree, I know how the mentality is for it. It's for some people it's just like I just get by, you know, and then that kind of mentality then transfers on to some of the jobs. It's just like I'm just doing my job, you know. And don't get me wrong, like there are jobs out there like like who really wants to be like like yeah this is my job, like just
production data, yes, I get to type for 8 hours a day,
yeah
putting in
exactly
numbers. It's like,
that kind of
no,
stuff,
I
right?
can see that. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But that's the thing, like sure, research is kind of like looking to be the job that I'm going to have later on, but I have to put in the work for the rest of it. Now I don't treat my classes as like as grades anymore. I treat them as in here lies the answer to my research. I really, really need to make sure that I know this stuff. If I don't, then I'm gonna be out there like, what's going on? And it's the same that applies to when you go to work. You'll complete the trainings. The person that, like hell, even the person that trained you might be the kind of person that's like, I'm just doing my job, you know.
That
But
pissed me off when I saw it
yeah,
sophomore year. I was like,
yeah,
you're dooming these mentees to have that same mentality if they
exactly.
decide that that mentality is the right way to go. And
Yeah,
some people did in my class, and I'm like, yeah, right. We're doing an off road here, and I went a complete 180 and just said, no, 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 no. We're gonna show them a whole different way to do this.
exactly. Like, um, it messes up the whole dynamic of things later on. Like, you know, you have that mentality of like good enough, right? And think about it. Like, yeah, look at anything, any product that you have in front of you, anything that you're enjoying in your life at the moment, right? Product wise, let's say you have a dishwasher, right? And somebody made it with the mindset of good enough, right? It's in like maybe a little while after you get it, it starts breaking down on you because somebody thought good enough, right?
Yeah, the
That's the
ceiling
kind
on
of
the door, it's only rated for 2 years, so it's like, wait, why? Like, you're gonna have a dishwasher for
yeah,
like, you know, the
like
lifespan
10.
of your house. It's
Yeah,
so
exactly,
design it around the house, not around just
exactly.
the dishwasher.
and
And a lot
and
of them do.
for the most part, like a lot of things were made that way back then, like back in the day. Like you see things now that are like 40, 50 years old, but they're still kicking it, they're still running as they should until finally like they say like, what, I'm done. But then you have newer products and other stuff that comes out and it's like, oh, these things only lasted a few years before they gave out, you know.
Yeah,
um
but not they're not all like that. Some of them they
no,
do put
no,
in
yeah,
the quality.
exactly. Oh yeah, definitely. Like there's still some stuff that's of better quality. Like don't get me wrong, there are again the people that are passionate about it, the people that actually do care about what they're making, right? And that's
Yeah,
what I'm saying. It's just more of like a mentality thing, you know. It's like you want somebody to make your food, right? Do you want somebody that like like it might taste the same one way or the other, right? But the person who really really cares about the way that it's set up, the way that it's plated, the way that like the flavors are complemented, the way that it looks, rather than somebody just throwing a pile of mush that they put into a blender on your plate
Yeah. Ah.
and thinking like you're gonna chew it anyways, you know, like it's all the same stuff that's on the other plate, but you're like just eat it, you know, like no, the mentality has to be different, you know, like you have to really really enjoy and be passionate about what you're doing, because if not, then what's the point?
I would say the passion is one of the ways to differentiate. I wouldn't say it's everything because I mean,
Right,
I'd say like
right,
90% of it's that slow increase
right,
towards where you need to go, and then
right,
finally it's just, oh, I was missing this one thing, and
right,
now it's so much better.
right,
Like that dishwasher that had that gasket problem, they
right.
changed the material construction. That thing lasts 20 years versus two
Exactly,
years. Now
exactly,
people are actually buying this stuff because they know
exactly,
that they saw the ratings, and they're like,
exactly.
look, we tested at these in like these households, and then like they're presenting on Facebook and on, you know, whatever else is that they're using for
Pride in
reviews
your
these days.
product. Pride in your product. That's what it is. Yeah. And I mean, like I understand. You know, a lot of this stuff is very difficult to really think about when really like when you're just finishing high school and you don't really know what you want to do for the rest of your life. I get it. You know, it's a big decision to make when really you don't have the kind of experiences in your life yet to figure out like I want to do that or this. You know, like it takes time. Like you said, it's like a step by step process, and even for me, it took time. I knew that I wanted to be an engineer since I was young, but I did not know specifically what I wanted to do with that
I'm
until I
glad
got
you
to
knew
this.
when you were young. I did it when I was like 16. Like, oh, I want to make sure that, you know, the United States military has plenty of things that they need. You know, their
Yeah,
inventory is full, and I was like, oh, you can do other stuff. Oh, I
yeah,
guess I'll
exactly.
try out. Yeah, I'll try up upstream oil. Sure.
No,
Yeah,
but like,
I
I
didn't
mean,
know.
for me, I started off young because my dad is an engineer, you know, and just seeing the stuff that he did, and I really like working with my hands, and like that's the kind of stuff that he does. So I was like, hell yeah, dude! Like this is the kind of stuff I really want to be doing. And then later on, just thinking like, you know, like I want to make things. I want to like, you know, be a researcher. I want to like, you know, publish papers and like, you know, prove like scientific theories or like, you know, just further further the advancement of our race a little bit for like a little bit along more in terms of like scientific discovery of technology, you know. That's kind of what I wanted to end up doing. And so now that I'm there and in the position to be doing so, I'm like really really going in on it, you know.
And I'm glad you are because there's the people who don't. It's I wouldn't want that kind of life for them. And I don't think their parents would, and I don't think their
Yeah,
friends would. It,
exactly. It's like don't like please like don't put yourself in a life that you know you're not going to enjoy, you know, like please like what I always tell like the mentees, it's like, you know, for the love of God, like just because I'm doing it doesn't mean that you have to, you know, find something that you want to do and then work at that.
and then eventually with that reaching, they become, oh, this person that I thought I couldn't reach, I am starting to transform into that by
Right, exactly.
practice, by what
Right,
I believe. And now that wall that I thought were, oh, they're just a bunch of smart professors, it's like I'll never reach that level. It's like, oh my goodness, I could be there in 5 years. I
exactly.
see the light of how to get there.
Exactly.
Maybe I can get there too.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that's so human. Like the, oh, I'm just not gonna do it. It's like, man, you're burning daylight.
Hmm.
And being in the university too, like you're investing in. I told this to students when they were mentees, you are burning a lot of money to be here, or someone is sponsoring you that's burning a lot of money for you to be here.
Don't waste
Please use it wisely, and
it.
then
Yeah.
if you transform yourself with it, you will thank yourself later, going, "I'm so glad I decided to really try, because now that I'm in this position, I can do so much where I could have done nothing if I would just played it mediocre for 5 years instead, like all
Right.
my other friends."
Right. Now, like, don't get me wrong. Like, when I was an undergraduate, and since I didn't really know what I wanted to do, I kind of messed around a lot. You know, like I messed up a lot of stuff, and I didn't do as well as I should have been able to. Um, and knowing now that like I'm actually really smart. Like I go back to some of those classes and I'm like, man, like I could have done a lot better there. And it's not because like, I'm like smart in the terms of like, I just get things a lot like really easily. It's just more so the fact that like the classes that I could have done better in, I just needed to put more effort. That's the thing. It wasn't like an issue of being smart. It was just an issue of work ethic for me. And now it's like I don't even believe who I am anymore. You know,
When
it's
I
crazy.
heard how busy you were before we did this, I was like, you still want to do the podcast? Are you
Yeah. No,
crazy?
like like I have an exam tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
But I feel good about it. I don't worry about tests anymore. There's just to me they're just tests. Either I do well in them or I don't. You know, that's it. Just I do my best. I don't care about everybody else. I do my best.
And I think you should run your own race, especially in grad school. I mean, for crying out loud, you got a lot
Mhm.
of people who are like, "Oh, I need to be better." It's like, no, 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 no. You're trying to get yourself better, not
Right,
focused on what they know so much. It's
right,
a
exactly.
wrong frame of
And
reference.
yeah, like I had a friend who was talking about that. They were like, you know, I don't really want to go to office hours because, some of the questions that people ask, they're like, you know, like it feels like they know everything, or it feels like they know exactly what to ask and stuff. And I'm like, listen, I started going to office hours not knowing what the hell is going on in the class, you know? And I ended up going to these places and thinking like, you know what, I'm just gonna go and like if nobody else shows up and I don't know what to ask, I'll pretty much just go over the lecture again with the guy because that's really what's going on. We just like keep reiterating the same thing until it sticks.
Yeah,
Finally.
the reinforcement of the material,
Exactly.
which is what you were talking about before with the reason why you didn't do so well in the class. It's like, yeah, I put up my lecture notes one time, I read through
Right.
them twice. It's like,
Right.
no, you need to. This is ready for battle, because when
Yes.
that exam hits, you don't have the resources at hand. You need to be
Yeah.
able to just navigate through the crazy chaos of the
Yeah.
2 hour exam or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. Like how when you're in the exam, it it really tests you on your ability to think as well because like how many times have you really had to think about this specific problem or like pulling things together relationships between certain things, if you've only done it like maybe the one or two times from like the lecture and then studying like a few nights before, how do you think you're going to perform on this test? It's the constant reiteration of like, oh, actually I got that wrong, okay, go back, let's try it again, okay, I got that right but this one's wrong this time, okay, so go back and like it's the constant back and forth until finally you get it right, you know
You're
but
like,
like
whoa, it's
exactly
together.
right. And it's like it's like that with everything. It's like you don't learn things immediately like that. Some people can, and more power to them. I don't like them because it's just like really easy for them, but at the same time, like more power to them. They
That's
need
their
to make
gift.
sure that you get it, you know. But it's like try playing an instrument that you don't know, right? You're not gonna magically be like the people that are making songs and stuff, right? You're not gonna magically be there. It takes time and it takes the effort to really learn something,
Yeah, know
right?
the ratio too. I mean, you may do like 6 hours of rehearsal for 1 hour performance.
Exactly.
So that's a good ratio to know. It's like,
Exactly.
okay, well, you can't just do it in the first 5 minutes and then expect to do an hour of rehearsal.
Right.
So
You don't
you
you
shouldn't
don't
treat
you
your
don't
exams that way either.
you don't make a speech or you don't give a speech just on the fly. Especially if it's something that you're trying to present to like a larger audience that knows what you're talking about. You need to make sure that like you've completely reiterated whatever it is you're going to talk about many times before you go up there. Now, like in this situation, like where it's a podcast and we're just kind of talking freely, like it's different. But like in a situation where you're expected to give something that you're going to talk about something that no, you need to
A
make sure
lecture,
like
per se.
yeah, you
Yeah, and
need
this
to
isn't a lecture. This is we're trying to collect a bunch of experiences and things that went wrong, and trying for in a long form, people think, oh, I was thinking that way too, but
uh-huh.
maybe I can turn around today, or maybe not today. Maybe I can turn around next week because I need to get my life ordered before I can actually make this happen. Because you can't just
Right,
always turn your life around
right.
that quick. But that's why another reason why I'm doing this, and it's been so cool to be able to get all these dormant friendships. And hey, are you free? Could you do this? And it's like,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, definitely. I mean, beyond just catching up and like seeing what each of us are currently involved with, it's more like just talking about something that we believe is of value and being able to really work on that and seeing what we can learn from each other and then apply it to our life. You know, like that's how it is at this point. That's what I'm pretty much just telling my mentees now. Like all the stuff that I tell you and the things that I've learned and the experiences that I've gone through, I let them know. Like in terms of like going through college and stuff, I can help you out the most with that because it's the most recent and that's the stuff that I have the most experience with. Like if you have a relationship and you are trying to like start an internship and you also have class to worry about and like all this bunch of stuff that you're trying to do, it's possible. I'm doing it, but like you need to grow. You need to like make sure you figure out how to do this kind of stuff correctly because if you don't do it, then it's not going to work out well.
It may take you years to do it instead of just putting in the extra effort. And now I've saved so much time. Look what I can do with this now, where some of my other competitors, they didn't do that.
Right,
It's a different road. Um,
right,
and
and
I think that's a good message for your mentees. So that way they remember that, yeah, growing, that's why they're there. Otherwise, they wouldn't invest so much into this.
yeah, and kind of going back to that whole thing at the very beginning of the talk with like the imposter syndrome that I told you about. It's like yes, it exists, and yes, it happens, and like yes, it's a real thing. You like people go through it at many different parts of their lives. I'm gonna eventually go through it again when I, you know, probably get the PhD and I go into the workforce and say like, oh man, like I don't know if I could actually do this. Like, but that's what it is. Like you'll have that moment of like, I don't know if I could do this, but it's not so much that like you don't know how to do this. It's just that you don't know how to do it yet, right? And that's the thing. Now start searching people out that know how to do it or the shortcuts that they know. And like oh yeah, like the standard operating procedure says this, but we didn't really fix that up yet. We actually do it this way because it's easier. Those types of things. Like that's definitely a thing out in the workforce. Like SOPs, like they might not be up to date, like or completely up to date with the way that things are actually run. And now it's kind of more so like word of mouth and figuring out how people who were in the position before you are now doing it.
SOPs are interesting, and we'll wrap this up here in a bit. But with SOPs, we're trying to capture what people are already doing.
Right,
So there's going to
exactly,
be a natural delay.
exactly.
And then, of course, people that are writing the SOPs are going, well, they couldn't do it that way, could they? And then they'll get in their groups and stuff and type it up that way, and they find out, oh, actually, we weren't so smart. They actually are doing something that we didn't quite anticipate,
Right,
and it's still safe for the product. Okay,
right,
maybe we should go back to the drawing board, but they don't do it for
exactly.
like 5 months later.
Yeah, you it, the innovation can come from anywhere. It doesn't necessarily have to be at the people that are like making the top decisions with everything. Like that's how it was at some of the jobs that I worked at. Like even though we had some like um, manager engineer there or like some top scientist, if we decided that the way that we put the whole thing together, like the process of it was different and it worked better and it gave the same result, you know, let's change it. And they say like, oh, that's pretty cool. Now all of a sudden things are faster. Now things work the same, but they're faster. Like it's just the advancement of it all.
The advancement. So, Carlos, as we're wrapping up here, would you have anything else to add from everything we talked? We actually talked about a lot more than I thought. We didn't
Oh
even get
yeah,
through like half the questions. It's great. That's the
I know.
best. That's the best. So, did you have
No, but
anything else you wanted to say?
for the most part, we did get through most of the questions because I'm reading all the notes that I have down. But like all the main points that I wanted to get out have been said. So just like the experiences that I've had with the past mentorship programs, how what it means to me, all that kind of stuff. How my experiences have changed me to then bring to the bring to the table to help other mentees through their careers. All that stuff has pretty much been said. But as a closing statement, it's just what I would want to tell my mentees is just like build confidence in yourself. You know, the whole imposter syndrome thing is a real thing, but everybody got here, and it doesn't matter what that person did or that person did to get here. You know, you're here now. Work on what you're supposed to do. Work on what you're doing, and be confident with it. Because you know, we don't need people who are just kind of like, oh, but I don't know how to do that specifically. It's like know what you don't know, figure it out, and then go back and do it. You know, so just be confident, be unique as well. You know, be yourself, be your own individual person, and bring something new to the table that other people don't know. You know, just because you might not get things the same way that some other people are getting it, doesn't mean that you're never going to get it. You know, or doesn't mean that like what you're thinking about isn't something that won't help others. You know, just
Yes,
be confident.
and
Set your goals. Set your goals. Figure out what you want to do. Be confident in like what you're doing, and then once you're there, decide. Once you're there at wherever you want to be at, decide if it's something that you want to do, and if not, continue on moving forward. That's it.
I'm glad you were able to say all these things because, man, it was so cool to be able to just put all this together into one podcast. And I would just say, Carlos already said it, man. Yeah, we don't need to say any more on it. It's like absolutely gather yourself to make your into a new and better person that you're investing to be in. So, with
Mm-hmm.
that being said, thank you everyone for watching.